Hey, welcome back. My name's Vin Dacquino, and you have tuned in to One on One. A community is not a community without its people. And our community has amazing people. What we've been doing is combing the county to try to find people who are doing something for everyone. We have found fascinating people. One of those fascinating people is here with us today. Jim Hoffman, good friend, great historian, veteran. Jim, talk to us.
All right, let me just give you my background first of all. I'm a retired high school teacher. My education credentials are I went to University of Connecticut. I graduated with a history degree in school education and a psychology minor. Then I did my graduate work at Iona College. And I was teaching in Connecticut for about 35 years on a high school level. My veterans credentials or history is I joined the Air Force in 1964. In June of '64, there was no war going on at the time. 1 month later, there was, so I got involved in the Vietnam conflict. 3 years prior to going to Vietnam, I worked in Charleston, South Carolina. I was a crew chief on cargo planes. And we kind of flew over to Europe a lot and took part with NATO on NATO exercises. And when we weren't doing that, we were going up to Fort Bragg and the paratroopers were practicing jumping out of the plane. And then the last year of the 4 years I was in, they sent me to Vietnam, and I was supposed to be in a fighter squadron. But what happened is when I got there, they transferred me out in the field with the 1st Infantry doing forward air controlling. I was still a crew chief. We had 4 or 5 light Cessna planes, 2-seaters, front and back seat, tail wheel. And what they would do is put rockets underneath the wings. Some would be live rockets, others would be phosphorus. And our job, I would fly back seat once in a while, so everybody would take turns on back seat because they didn't want 2 pilots in the plane in case it got shut down. I guess I was expendable. So we would go up and they would, the 1st Infantry would say, our target's up there, and we would go in and dive at it, shoot a phosphorus rocket, makes a lot of smoke. 3 jets would go and dive on the target. And we fly around in a circle and tell them, well, that was good or that wasn't good, do it again. And then when we weren't doing that and we didn't know where the enemy was, we'd fly treetop and get them to shoot at us, basically. I was there June of '67 to June of '68 during the Tet Offensive. And that's pretty much my my veteran until I came here locally.
Yep. And now, all these years later, you do a lot of work with the veterans.
Yes, I do.
And there are a lot of veterans in Putnam County. It's amazing.
There sure are. There sure are. It's
and I know you've done things in and out with the museum. I brought a group of kids there. You were wonderful in showing us around. So it's good to see that we're not forgetting our veterans. Our past is very important. And when we talk about the past, I think of you because you're also very involved with the Kent Historical Society. So in addition to working with so many of our veterans, you try to preserve who we were. Tell me a little bit about what you're doing now and how you got involved with all of this.
The Kent Historical Society? It was part of my passion. I was a history teacher, and a historian, so anything historical. In fact, I was up here for about 20 years, And I used to come up as a little kid. I had relatives up here, but I moved up about 20 years ago. And the very first thing I did was go to the Reed Library and pull
Right.
out all kinds of history I want to know about this place that I lived. And I found out all kinds of interesting things. And then, the Kent Historical Society kind of recruited me. When I first came up, I was too busy. I was working with the veterans. And then, of course, 9/11 and everything. And finally, I got to a point where I said, I got to get over there. I got to get over with those guys. And I finally joined, and I've been working with them. They have two pieces of property. They have a schoolhouse on Farmers Mill Road that dates back to the turn of the century, 1900. And their second property is the Ludingtonville mill site. Of course, the mill isn't there, it burnt down. They had rebuilt it, it burnt down. But the foundation is there. And of course, we take tours of people coming in, yourself included, to the schoolhouse and to the mill site. And then we, just of late, we coupled it. We had to close the schoolhouse because we're doing repairs. So we kind of made the tours, we added the museum to the tour list. And that worked out very well.
Yeah, I've gotten to know the Kent Historical Society and some of the people in there. As you say, I bring groups. I brought senior citizens, I bring children every year over, and the children are so excited about the fact that they can stand on the ground that Sybil stood on. And it's amazing. So many people aren't aware that Sybil was right here. Ludingtonville is where the Ludingtons lived. And her father ran a mill. That mill is what you're trying to rebuild. And Sybil stood there. To my knowledge, so did George Washington when he came to visit. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's not to get off topic, but that people don't realize that George Washington's headquarters was just on the other side of the Hudson, and his main prize was New York City, and they had an extensive spy program that ran from New York City, and they had to get that information to Washington. It came right through here.
And the colonel was very active in this area. He was sort of like, I like to say he was like the chief of police for the neutral territory. And people didn't realize that he was militia. Originally, he actually was with the British. When he became militia, he was in charge of like 400 men. So that incredible night when he was called on to do the famous ride, this was right here in Kent. And she is a local hero. And I get excited about the fact that she's a woman, a 16-year-old. So kind of a kid, although in those days, 16 years old.
No, it wasn't.
They had like 3 kids.
I know, they're married already.
Yeah. Well, Sybil's mother was only 15 when she had her. So it was a different day and age. It's still a courageous act. And I am thrilled that the Kent Historical Society helps to promote her history. And it's important. Now, there's even a museum that's going to be going up. I think you've been involved in it, and the Kent Historical Society has been involved in trying to create a museum on the site where the mill is.
Right now, we've been so tied up in trying to fix the problem over at the schoolhouse that that's our front burner right now.
And it's a matter of money as well.
It's money. Money is a problem, of course, in anything you do. And but that's our first priority right now is the schoolhouse. The Ludingtons, they actually came and visited going back, I'm losing track of time, let me say 8 years ago. They came from all over the United States. The part of the family in England couldn't come because it was the year when they had the Olympics over there, and the guy drove a taxi, or he had a taxi business. He couldn't leave, but it was very interesting just meeting the Ludingtons from all over.
I had a little thing for them at the hotel when they came. And I had a chance to meet all of them. They invite me to their family reunions. So I get to go to the family reunions, and I'll be going to England in a couple of weeks. I'm hoping to see him when I get out there. Ron Ludington used to run the family, and I'm having trouble trying to remember, believe it or not, the name of the man in London, although I've met him a few times.
Yeah, I know. I'm the same way. It's, yeah, got to write
as
things
history
down.
goes on,
Yeah.
memories go too. So
Yeah.
they've been very active. I know I can remember when Jim C., may he rest in peace, was very active with the Kent Historical Society, and they built that foundation. So there's a partial foundation there now. People can come there. There's even little picnic tables.
So right over near 52.
Yeah, you know, I try to urge people to see the county. The signs for Sybil are all over. They can actually follow them. You'll remember when the Boy Scout, Jim, made these signs as part of his project, his Eagle Project. And made signs so people can follow the signs all the way through and around through Kent and back around to where the mill site is today. That's a good thing, you know, and it gives them a chance to appreciate what that ride was like then. So let's go back again to the Kent Historical Society. Sybil Ludington isn't their only project.
Oh, no, not at all. They're involved in, research. If somebody requests research on a certain thing, they try to do or refer them. They're constantly bringing people in to give talks.
Yeah, I've been to a few of them. I've done a few of those.
We've had some great speakers come in, and last year we got out of the regular meeting and actually took the show on the road.
Wow.
In fact, last April, I did the first of the road shows, and I did a tour of Veterans Park. We had about 20 people come to it. It took me an hour and a half from beginning to end. We ended with the museum, but we took them on a tour of all the monuments in the lower park, all the history of the park itself. It was a home for homeless people, basically.
Wow, back in the day.
And in fact, it still has a potter's field up near the road, and they buried the people. You lived on the farm. You produced on the farm. You sold what you grew and raised to earn your way. You slept there. You lived there. And then when you died, they buried you there.
Wow.
And unfortunately, they gave you a number.
Wow.
Potter's Field, basically. And then it developed, it was sold, and then the county finally got a hold of it, and they said, what a great place for a park, and then who should we dedicate it to? And that's when the veterans got involved.
It actually is a wonderful park. I bring my grandson and his friends, and we spend an entire day there. I mean, they can fish there in the little lake. There's the museum. There's the helicopter. When I pulled up, those kids were like, oh, my God. And there's this beautiful helicopter and a tank.
Helicopter story is kind of interesting.
Yeah, tell me about that.
Pete Allegretta was instrumental in getting the tank and the helicopter. So when he got the helicopter, we got a helicopter, we're going to put it up at the park. Everybody was all excited. And we're sitting around at the post talking, and somebody says, God, I wonder who flew this thing. So that just touched off something. So
there's a history in you.
Well, it wasn't me. It was the bunch
group.
of us. And everybody says, wow, that'd be something if we could find them. So we looked for them, and we found them.
Wow.
One of them was in Texas, and the other pilot was up in Maine. He was a forest ranger or something. He was a big wheel up in Maine. So we got in a hold of him, and we told him, hey, we got your helicopter here. And his first response is, I crashed that. The last time I saw it, it rolled over. We got lucky. We walked
so
away.
That was like a salvage.
So they thought that was the end of it. But they actually put it back together. I don't know if it ever flew again, but we got our hands on it.
Wow.
And so we flew these guys in. And we put him up at a hotel, and we had a big party for him. And then the next day we had the dedication ceremony, and I mean, these guys, they were crying. It was very emotional.
Yeah.
Because it was a big part of them, you know. So
I
once
hear you.
again, it's not a piece of metal. What we have
It's a piece
there,
of history.
it's a piece of history, and everything in that park and in the museum is connected to a person.
Now, does that tank have a story too? There's a tank there?
The tank is also, it's a Vietnam era. Vietnam, we used anything that was left over, basically.
Right.
So it's a Vietnam era, but we didn't, the history with that is what happened to it after it was put there.
Oh.
It got vandalized.
Oh.
And right after 9/11, and they threw paint on it, and it was a real mess. It made the news all over the country.
Wow.
And then somebody saw it in Massachusetts, England, I can't remember. He owned a company, a sandblasting company, but he used volcanic ash in the sandblasting, and he volunteered for free and come down and cleaned it for us. Well,
it looks great now.
Yeah, it looks fantastic now.
You know, I go and I bring the kids there, and I show them the helicopter, I show them the tank. There's a memorial there, even a memorial there to young children.
Yeah.
And it's a wonderful place to spend the day.
Yeah.
The playground equipment is amazing. It's exercise equipment.
Yes, it is. Oh, yeah. It's really nice. There's 2 new monuments there of recent in the last year or so. Purple Heart Monument that the guys, Joint Veterans Council put in. They did a beautiful job on it. And there's a second one, and I don't know if it's in yet, to honor the infantry people in World War II. So I don't know if that one is in yet, but the Purple Heart one is.
Before I forget, we are talking about the park that is on Gypsy Trail Road.
Yes.
Across the street is the Veterans Park, where they have a number of things, even the Great Indian Powwow.
Yeah, the park is in 2 parts.
Yep.
You have an upper park, lower park. The upper park is where you have the large events, where there's a dog show or 4-H or the Indian powwow. The lower park, a lot of people don't know there's a lower park. You go across the road and down, and the lower park is absolutely, the places where we're talking with the helicopter and the tank, is absolutely a gorgeous section of the park. I'm on the Parks Committee there, the advisory committee, and to try to get things done and advise what should be done. And they can take our advice, throw it out if they want, because that's the key. We're not a decision-making body. We're advisory. But even when we had the Vietnam Wall, not just this last time, but if we go back to 2010, we had it. The guy that did the wall came from Texas, and he goes all over the United States with this wall. And he said this was absolutely the best backdrop for the wall, any place he ever been.
Well, I'm going to tell you something about the upper park. You know there's a chapel there.
Yes.
And that chapel was brought from Red Mills to the park.
Yeah.
Well, there's going to be an amazing event coming up soon in that upper park, in that chapel. My daughter's wedding. My daughter fell in love with that chapel, fell in love with the site, and said, you know what? This is where I want to get married. So September, we're going to be there. I'm going to urge the guests to go to the lower field, take a look at what you've done there.
Yeah.
Because it's more than a park. It's preservation of our history. It's making people conscious of where we've been so that we can appreciate where we're going. The work you've done with the vets, the museum. You know, we haven't really talked enough about inside the museum, what's in there. There's some amazing things there that people can bring their family and see. Just tell us a little bit about, I know there's like flags and
oh, geez, where do you start? There's so many things.
Oh, wonderful things.
Just off the top of my head, we have one case that has all World War I things in it.
Yep, memorabilia.
And the great part about it is the whole entire case, everything in it came from one person,
Wow.
a guy in Brewster. Anything from the pictures to the helmets to the things he wore, just incredible. And we're coming up on World War I commemoration. The United States got involved in 1917, so in 2017 there's going to be a lot of stuff going on in county, state, all over the place. And we have a terrific county historian, Sarah Johnson.
Yes, yes.
She's doing just a great job. And also the people in the Kent Historical Society, Jackie, Betty Bear is a walking history book.
I've had
and then other
breakfast
people,
and lunch with her. She's wonderful.
Yeah, and other people in the surrounding area and other historical society. Ron Taylor is unbelievable.
Yeah. Now, I went to one of his programs at the Kent Historical Society, and he was our first guest, one-on-one.
Yeah.
And he's been here to talk about some of the things that he does. You know, I can't thank the historians in this county enough. You know, I did Hauntings of the Hudson River and my Sybil Luddington book. I could not do that without the help of all of the historians. These people, these wonderful people of our past, would truly be dead if not for our historians who maintain those histories. So again, you know, I just can't thank you enough. I can't thank now Sarah, but there were so many great historians. I remember Dick Muscarella.
Yes.
Dick really set my fire burning. He used to drive me around. He was the county historian. He would drive me around and tell me all these wonderful stories. We cannot let those stories die. And I've said this, and I'll say it on every show if I have to. Every time we do not teach the children of today about our yesterday, we're stealing a piece of their tomorrow, because they need to know where we've been so they can see where they need to go. So hopefully they don't make some of the mistakes we've made, and hopefully they do some of the good things we've done.
That's the whole thing. Well, being a teacher, the whole thing is direction.
Yeah.
It's to put them in the right, aim them in the right direction.
Speaking of children, now you've been a teacher, so I know that part of your message here today is that historical societies need people who've been around for a long time. But they also need our youth to keep going. So I know you've said to me a number of times, Vinny, we have got to encourage the children to join us and to take part in preserving our history. So can an 18-year-old join the Historical Society?
Oh, sure.
And you'd welcome them?
Yeah.
Or her?
Oh, definitely. In fact, you see that in all organizations, not just ours, but it's a nucleus, and you're not getting a lot of the younger people. We had a very strong tie with the schools for a while through the veterans.
Right.
We used to bring veterans in to speak in the schools. We had an essay contest. We still have it, but you don't get as many people in the essay contest. We used to get hundreds of them. So our ties with, and it's hard to get the schools to do tours over the park.
You know, with the core curriculum and so many mandatory regulations.
That's what happened.
They just can't keep up. And I still have a couple schools that I go to and take bus trips with.
Yes.
But they have to squeeze. You know, I schedule months in advance to try to get these schools to go on these tours. So it's not easy. And Kent Historical Society doesn't stand alone. Carmel Historical Society, the Patterson, Pup Valley, all these little villages have historical societies.
Yeah.
So again, we need to urge people not only to get involved with Kent Historical Society, but all over the county, and to recognize our past. Okay, we're getting close. So, questions. The big question, Jim. What do we want to say to these people?
Tell them to get involved. You have to get involved in your community. That's what makes the community what it is. And this particular community is unbelievable. I mean, we have people volunteering as firemen. We have people volunteering everywhere you can think of. And it's good. We need more. We need more people involvement. But get involved. Don't just stay in your house. You don't really fix or improve a community by staying in your house. You have to get involved.
Communities are made of people. And we need those people. The hospitals, the schools, the historical places, the museums. So it is crucial that we do a call out, a call to arms in our schools, help the children realize the beauty of working together. Veterans. So the Veterans Museum is open. Is there anything we can do in terms of veterans to help the veterans out there?
The VA, local VA, Putnam County has been doing a lot through their VA office. I take part in a discussion group at the local VA here with people with post-traumatic stress. I sit in on that. And
that office is right here in Carmel?
Right here.
Across the street?
Across the street.
Jim, I cannot thank you enough for not only coming on this show, but for all of your years of service, for your years of service in Vietnam.
I want. How much time do I sneak something?
Yeah, go ahead, sneak it in, please.
I can always tell you when I'm doing well out there, because you'll ask somebody, "Do you know Jim Hoffman?" And they'll say, "Well, you know, I heard the name, but I can't put a face with him." And if I can get everything done and still stay in the shadows, I work better that way, and that's very successful.
Sorry, your face is out there now, buddy.
I'm a celebrity. I'll be on a box
now
of
you're
corn.
a celebrity. That's
I'll
right.
be on a box of cornflakes or something.
Your face is out there now.
Yeah.
But not only is your face out there, your heart is out there. And on behalf of the people of Putnam County,
thank you, Vinny.
Thank you. Thank you for all you've done for our country and for our county. Thank you for tuning in today. It is a pleasure to have you here. Stay tuned. We're going to have shows for you every week. A lot of interesting people, a lot of interesting things to say.